Happy right there with the song Nifunze, kicking off our show this morning right here on Full Circle with Joyce. With me, Joyce Omondi Wahiga. Today, again, we're focusing in on relationships. And right now, we want to focus in specifically on the other man. Many times we talk about the other woman in a relationship. You know, there's always that kababe that we always, you know, is the villain really in a lot of stories as far as breaking up a relationship or a marriage or whatever it may be. Today, though, we recognize that there are men who are equally as responsible for such situations in a lot of relationships today. And so that's what we want to delve into with my guest here. He's called George Maina, and he's the founder of Men of Purpose. And even as we carry on this conversation, I want to invite your comments and your feedback. The SMS line is 22999. You can also reach us on our social media platforms. That's at Switch TV KE on Instagram and at Switch TV Kenya on Facebook and Twitter. Now, George, karibu sana to the show.
Thank you, Joyce.
I hope you're well this morning.
Very well, thank you.
Today we want to ruffle feathers. This is a serious topic.
Indeed, indeed.
All right. So, you know, as I mentioned, we're always talking about the other woman, but really, I'm sure there's also the other man.
Exactly.
And we hardly talk about them. But, you know, maybe you can give us your take.
All right. Maybe before I get there, let me just introduce myself.
Sure.
George Maina is my name, like you mentioned. And I have a passion particularly to see the man empowered in three key areas: in character, in leadership, and in fatherhood. And that's why we came up with a forum called the Men of Purpose that really focuses on empowering men in these three key areas. And so we ran a 12-week program, and we focus on different topics that really target the man. And one of the topics we normally talk about is about the other man. And that's why for me it's exciting to come and talk about it right now. And so the question is, why the other man? The other man comes to fill in a void that has been left perhaps by the husband or could be the fiancé. And this is in the area of emotionally void or spiritual or physical. Because you see how a man, by the time he enters into a relationship, the way men are wired, they are more project-oriented. And therefore, when a man is seeking for a wife to get married, it's more of a project. And the mistake most men do is that when that project is over, he gets to another project. So what does that mean? Is that another man then, if you're not careful, will now take your wife as the project. And that's why you find that many marriages are breaking up, because men really focus on short-term instead of the long-term part of it.
You might need to qualify that, though, because I'm sure a lot of women will be watching now and being like, so if I'm just a project ikiisha, what happens to, I mean, where do men stand then as far as that vow for till death do us part?
Precisely. I'm saying that is a default system of a man, that he's
default.
wired to just look at issues as project-oriented.
Yeah, okay.
But what you're telling the men, this is not a project. You are in this for life. And even if it's a project, look at it as a lifelong project
okay.
where you keep on improving it and working on it to making it better and better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can tell us then, I guess, from your perspective, you're married.
Yes.
What is it that men actually look for in a marriage?
Indeed. I've been married now for the last 25 years.
Wow.
So I think I have some experience to talk about. What do men look in a marriage? I think I'll sum it up in two keywords. Men look for respect and admiration. As long as you admire your man and you respect your man, you are massaging his ego. And if there's anything that God gave us, is an ego that needs to be constantly massaged.
Let's talk about that, because we certainly do acknowledge that, you know, one of the biggest things to a man is his ego.
Exactly.
Not just, you know, with women, but even with how other men treat him. You know, men have this, it's a competitive nature about them. And so when we're talking about the other man, and you're saying a man really wants to have his ego elevated and lifted, but if he's doing things that are driving his woman to another man, you know, how do you explain that situation?
Let me derive a lot of my answers from the Word of God. The Bible says in the book of Ephesians that wives should love their husbands, the man should love the wife, and you know, and the wife should submit or respect their husband.
Right.
I think if each one of us played our two roles, you know, then we'd have very little issues to do with some of the challenges that come up with. As I said earlier, if you keep on praising your man, if you keep on respecting your man, he'll be there for you. But I think the mistake most women make, and I think we are living in an age in terms of equality, what a man can do, we hear a woman can be able to do better, and all that kind of a thing. I think we are missing the point, because as much as that is true, let us know that this man needs to be respected, needs to be admired. The more we keep on praising our men, the more then we'll have them there for you.
Okay, let me just read some of the SMSs that have started coming in. Again, the SMS line is 22999. We'd love to hear from you guys. Someone here says, Isaac from Limuru, good morning, Joyce. Today you look good and always loving the show. Asante Sana, God bless you as well. Good morning, Joyce. Today you look good. Thank you. I guess that's the same person there. But just to repeat that, the SMS line is 22999. We want to hear your feedback, your questions, your comments. Perhaps you've had an experience where your relationship has been affected by another man coming in between you and your partner or your spouse. So, George, as we continue this discussion,
yes.
In your experience, I guess, having founded Men of Purpose, do a lot of men open up, come in that forum? And obviously it's a confidential forum, so we don't need to mention any specifics, but do you find a lot of men opening up as far as them being the other man in a relationship?
Indeed, and I think, Joyce, one of the things that is lacking in this nation is a forum where men can talk and express themselves. I guess unlike women, where women have the charmers, have their girlfriends from primary schools, very few men, and I've talked with many of them, have what you call real friends. What they have are, workmates, colleagues, acquaintances, etc. And so in the forum that we have, indeed, when we start talking about this topic, we find men really opening up. And part of the things, like you're saying, that drive, them away from, their marriages, again, has got to do with the issues that take place at home. It's interesting that this other man could be the most unexpected person. Because for instance, for a wife, you're looking for that emotional, somebody who would understand you emotionally, someone who would feel you. And you've come to discover some of these other men could actually be the gardener, could even be the mechanic. For instance, your car breaks down and you call your husband and say, look, the car has broken down. The man quickly says, look, I'm in a meeting. Let me call, Onyango to come and repair your car. So Onyango comes and repairs you. The same thing happens the following month. Onyango keeps on coming. In the mind of a woman, what happens? Onyango becomes the hero. He becomes the rescuer. And so before long, you find there is a relationship that is taking place, because this guy always comes and sorts me out. My husband is too busy to be able to attend, to my affairs. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's coming to fill in a void that this woman is longing for. If the husband could have just said, honey, just hold on, I'm coming, give me another 30 minutes, then the wife would feel much appreciated, that I'm more important than perhaps, the business deal that you're taking through. I'm not saying you cannot have excuses for not coming, but look, don't make it a habit that every other time you send someone else to take your own responsibilities. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because we are also in a day and age where there's a lot of absentee fathers, and because they're not the ones that are obviously carrying the baby, so it's not as physically evident to society or your community, your family, that you have had a relationship, have sired a child somewhere. A lot of guys are walking around and they've fathered children that they're not even involved in their lives. Talk to us about men and taking responsibility in their relationships for their actions, because a lot of women really complain on the show as they text in about just the men in their lives not stepping up. We even had a show some time ago on deadbeat dads.
I think if there's anything that saddens me, and I really talk about it very passionately, is the whole issue of fatherhood. If there is a crisis that is facing our country at the moment, is fatherlessness. In fact, I keep on saying, if it was a disease, it would be an epidemic in this nation. Because fatherhood plays a key central role in the life and in the well-being of any child.
Right.
Let me just share some statistics that are a bit shocking. A research was done in about 2013 in this country, and it showed that about 60% of the Kenyan women, before they hit 45 years, they'll have, gotten a child. Now, the challenge is that most of these children are born, like you're saying, without a father. A father is there to be able to provide, to be able to protect, to be able to, to be the provider of that particular family. So without a father, then there is a dysfunction in the growing up of this particular baby. In fact, if you look at the evil that's happening in this nation, a lot has got to do with fatherhood.
Right.
A statistics was done, a research was done not so long ago, and it found out that at the remand prison in industrial area, 70% of the men were fatherless.
Wow.
70%. 70%. If you go to the US,
that's true.
For instance, the largest, populace in the prison are the blacks. Now, most of those blacks, again, 70% of them, it also showed they are fatherless. So it's not just a Kenyan problem.
Right.
It's a worldwide problem.
Right.
And so this is an issue that, and I agree with you, men should take responsibilities. Whether you went and slept with that girl and she got pregnant and that was not the intention, that is your responsibility.
Right.
You have a responsibility of raising up that kid so that he grows up in a functional way. Otherwise, it will be, one legacy after the other, because that child also ends up fathering another child without a father.
Right. And even for the daughters who are raised by fatherless men, we hear a lot about daddy issues. So it also affects female children as well. And speaking of responsibilities, the other side of it is knowing what not to do, like doing the right thing. Yes. There's a question here from someone who says, hello Joyce, good morning, I'm 25, and there's this lady that has a boyfriend, and yet she claims she loves me. Is that love she's telling genuine? So here's a situation where he basically is at risk of becoming the other man.
Yes. In
an existing relationship. And so the question, I guess, then is, there's the responsibility of you've done something, take responsibility over your actions, but talk to us as well about the responsibility of doing the right thing, even when it may not benefit you the most.
Indeed. I think, Joyce, we need to define this word love, because I think love has been misused.
Yeah.
What is love? Is it just a feeling? I beg to differ.
Yeah.
I want to say that love is a choice. So I choose to love my wife in spite of, because if we keep on depending on feelings, depending on what does he have, what shall he give me, we are going to miss the point. Love is a choice. Love is a decision that you make. And you remember when you're taking your vows at the altar, the question that the pastor keeps on asking, do you take this woman? He's asking you, have you made up your mind?
Right.
Have you chosen to love so-and-so? And therefore, in death, or in poverty, or in riches, in sickness and whatever, you choose to stick with this man. Right. And therefore, that's why then, responding to that question, it becomes very, very, very difficult. Are you saying you have chosen then to love two women? It becomes then a challenge. I think he needs to make a choice. Who do I really love? Not because of what I'm getting, but because I've made a choice to love.
Right. So he actually is battling with the choice of whether to agree to a relationship with a woman who's already in a relationship. But the same thing applies, though, that it is a choice for him to make, to say, you know what, this would break this relationship. And at the end of the day, I think it's important for us to treat others as we'd have them treat us, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
But if somebody else is in a relationship, why then would you want to interfere with that particular relationship? Yeah. All right? Because like you're saying, yes, you're messing up somebody else's relationship, somebody else's marriage. So make a choice and, go for the one that does not have a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, George, we're going to be back with you in just a moment. Guys, we're going to continue this discussion on the other man in a relationship. And we'd love to take your feedback. Again, the SMS line is 22999. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion and I'll be reading out your feedback. Stay tuned. All right, and we're back on the show. This is Relationship Tuesday right here on Full Circle with Joyce, with me, Joyce Omondi Wahiga. And I'm seated here with George Maina, who's the founder of Men of Purpose, an organization, I guess, that really seeks to help empower men. And you told me it's in 3 areas.
In 3 areas: in character, in leadership, and in fatherhood.
Character, leadership, and fatherhood. Very important topics. Even as, I mean, changing our society really begins with the individuals that we are. Absolutely. So as we continue with the show, there are some questions that have come in. Someone here says, "Hi Joyce, I'm Mary from Nakuru. I'm loving the show. So educative, getting important tips there. Asante sana for watching the show." Someone here says, "Hi Joyce, I'm Pauline watching from Kisumu. I had a boyfriend way back after my high school, but things didn't work out. 13 years down the line, he still texts me that he still loves me, even though I'm married." George, help out Pauline and this dear brother.
Wow. Thank you, Pauline, for that particular question. 13 years is a long time.
It's long. A whole teenager has been raised.
Exactly. But I think for Pauline, what I'd really advise is this: you chose to get married to your husband. Temptations will be there, but stick to your man. As I said, love is a choice.
Absolutely.
You have every right to be able to block his text or to tell him exactly your current status right now. Okay? Tell him you're married, you have found everything that you needed in the current man that you have, and you have no longer interest in him. Look, what are you going to get after 13 years? Yeah? I mean, you have already moved on. And so I think the best you can do is to encourage him to move on. I'm sure there are many other ladies in the, in the market, so to speak. And I really, really doubt whether that is love.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 years, I doubt whether that is love. Let her focus on what she's supposed to do in making her marriage work and strengthen her marriage.
Right.
She can politely decline all the texts and all the invitations.
Just, yeah.
And she moves on.
Tell him you've moved on. Send him an SMS. Just tell him what he's doing is inappropriate. You're married. And go ahead and block him if you need to. I think because love is a choice, you need to be that deliberate with your actions as well.
And you're protecting your marriage.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, George, another question here. Good morning, Joyce. Ask George what drives women into the other man in a situation where the husband is always there, no voids, emotional, physical, and conjugal presence, but the wife still is deeply entangled with the other man. Can this be a disorder or an unspoken weakness? Now, this is a man that, many Kenyan women will be like, who is this person? Give us his number. Because a lot of, a lot of babes complain, Kenyan men nowadays too much, there are no good men around. Here is a man who seems to actually be holding his weight. He claims that he is there. He's there physically, emotionally, conjugal presence, everything. But his wife seems to be seeking out this other man.
This other man. Let me say this. I don't think marriage is a panacea, to you not being tempted, okay? Temptations will be there. You'll be drawn to other men. You'll be drawn to other women if you're a man. But this is what I want to respond to that question. If you find yourself in that situation, be open to your man. The Bible says they were naked and not ashamed. I think the challenge we find with such people is that you are nursing a secret, sin, so to speak. If you open up to your husband and tell him, look, this is what's happening in my life, okay? He'll be able to understand you, and you can have a conversation about it. Because you have no idea. Maybe even the man is having similar issues. Elsewhere, it's only that he has not spoken about it. I think if there is openness between husband and wife on the weaknesses that they have, on the challenges that they have, then the two can be able to sort them out together. If that's not possible, then if you're a lady, be open to another lady. Look, this is what I'm going through. Or if you're a man, have an accountability partner. That's what I like saying. That you can have someone, you can tell him, look, I allow you to speak into my life. And if you find anything in my life that is not all right, I give you access, to correct me. Because look, marriage is being built. And nothing, like they say, Rome was not built in a day. Right. It is a process. So for that particular lady in particular, can she be open to her husband and tell her, and the husband of course should approach it not from a point of, you know, but can I seek to understand my wife?
Right, so you'd actually suggest that, because it's the gentleman who texted in, that he should seek out to talk to his wife about this? Or how should he go about the situation?
Definitely. I mean, the first person to be open to, of course, is your wife, if you have an issue like that. I'm being drawn to this lady, or the lady says, I'm being drawn to this. Let's talk about it candidly and openly. If not possible, and especially for a man, get an accountability partner.
Okay.
And say, guys, this is what I'm going through.
All right. Our time is moving very quickly, so let me try and get to some more questions here. Hi, Joyce. I'm loving the show. My question is, I'm in between two guys in my life. One, we have been together for 6 years now. I have introduced him to my family, and they were even coming home this April. But now I'm not sure if I'm ready anymore. We have been having issues about how he treats me, and his ego is a lot. The other guy, I met him last year in May. He is so good to me. He treats me so well. What should I do? That's Daisy watching us from Nairobi.
Wow.
So
Daisy, if I was an empire, I would just say, you know.
Time out.
Just take some time off, you know, and don't be in a rush. Nobody's putting a gun on your head, you know, to be able to make a decision.
Right.
I think take some time off and seek God if you're a Christian and pray about it. Because look, marriage is not a joke. Once you are in it for life. So a broken relationship is better than a broken marriage. Yeah. So for her, just say, take some time off, step back and evaluate yourself. What exactly do I need so that I be able to make the right choice?
Okay. This may not necessarily be about another man, but I think it's an important question nonetheless in light of the work that you do. Hi, Joyce. Loving the show. What do you do to a man who punishes you for the things he went through from the previous relationship, especially money-wise? He feels like the other abused him, spent a lot on her, but didn't work out, and so he's afraid to do the same.
So it looks like this is the second relationship?
This is the second relationship.
Yeah. Let me say something, Joyce, and I've seen this particularly with men. And men in particular, take a look at your background. You see, we grew up with our fathers who didn't know how to bring us up. And therefore, when we enter into a relationship, our default system is to behave like our fathers did. Yet that may not be the appropriate way of doing things. Okay? Or could be all the way from your grandfather has been passed on to your father, has been known, then been passed on to you. I think in this particular situation, one should really check, where is this thing coming from? Because then there's an issue with the handling of finances. All right? We go to school to study accountancy, to study media. But you know, when it comes to marriage, we never really take time to see how can we be able to empower our marriage life. When was the last time someone read a book on how to handle finances in a marriage, okay? Or how to handle my wife? We hardly do that. Yet that is supposed to be able to empower us. So in this particular situation, again, I'd like to request for them to have a candid, again, the discussion. Why are you treating me this way? Is there an issue that was with your dad? And then the person actually realizes, wait a minute, I'm actually behaving the way my dad used, and that could be a light bulb for the man to discover whatever I'm doing has an origin somewhere, which I need to be able to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, we're going to have to park it there for today, George. But thank you so much for being here and for your insights this morning, guys. We've been talking about the other man in relationships. We have to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about consequences of giving too much in a relationship. Is that even possible? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Is it not? We're going to be looking at that and so much more when we come back right after this short break. Stay tuned. This is Full Circle with Joyce.